All right, so we'll go over project closeout and mainly the forms and how to fill out the project form, closeout forms, as there's a lot of them, and sometimes there's a little confusion around them. Regulation states that 90 days after a project's expiration or termination, you need to submit some documentation to close the project. This documentation will tell us that funds were spent properly and the project was conducted in an acceptable manner. Each project does need to retain all documents pertaining to the project for the longer of the following, which is 3 years after the expiration or termination of the subrecipient agreement, or 3 years after your grantee submission of the CAPER, in which your specific activity is reported for the last time. So when to begin the closeout process? DED has interpreted a 90-day time period to start after the completion of the project's activities. All costs to be paid with program funds have been paid, including any third-party claims. This excludes costs such as closeout costs, the final audit, and the final 10% of admin engineering funds being held. The subrecipient has fulfilled all of its responsibilities under the funding agreement. There are two types of closeouts. We have what we call a regular closeout. This is when a project meets all conditions of the grant and all 5 major tasks, which we'll go over here in a moment, are received and approved. And then we have the admin close. This is when conditions of the grant have been met and the first 4 major tasks are completed, but the single audit has yet to be conducted. The project can be closed administratively. Once the audit is submitted to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse and approved, this project is considered closed. So those 5 major tasks, they include start and resolution of the closeout monitoring process, completion of a closeout public hearing, submission of the hearing minutes and affidavit of publication, submission of a closeout report, submission of our certificate of completion, and completion and submission of the single audit. Once the subrecipient completes their project, they will reach out to their assigned compliance specialist to schedule a closeout monitoring. The compliance specialist will prepare a closeout checklist that will align with the project's activities. This can include things such as national objective, citizen participation, financial management, procurement, and contract management. Once the subrecipient reviews the documents provided by the subrecipient, once the specialist reviews those documents, the specialist will provide a list of items or findings that need to be remedied to ensure the project is in compliance with HUD regulations. It is the subrecipient's responsibility to resolve all findings the compliance specialist identifies in the closeout monitoring and cannot close the project until all findings are cured. There's the closeout public hearing. A public hearing on grant performance is required after a minimum of 80% completion. A copy of the published notice and minutes of the hearing must be submitted to DED as part of the closeout report. A few things to remember about hearings, as we went over a little earlier this week. Must allow a minimum of 5 full days of advance notice as to allow for citizen participation. Must address the performance of the funded grant. Document and retain any and all comments and complaints. If there are any comments and complaints, make sure they are settled before closeouts. You cannot close the project out with unresolved issues. Further details about public hearing can be found in the citizen participation chapter of the admin manual. Then we have the closeout report. Once the public hearing and closeout monitoring findings have been resolved, the subrecipient may now turn in their final RFF for the remaining 10% of admin and engineering funds. The state CDBG closeout report cover sheet. This form encompasses the information of the subrecipient, project number, persons completing the report, and number of citizens who made comments. Pretty basic cover sheet. Make sure you're attaching any written comments provided by the citizens. This form must be signed by the highest ranking official. The certificate of completion. It details the project's financial expenditures throughout the project, provides for computation of any amount to be deobligated, proposed actual local contribution, disposition of program income, and subrecipient certification of responsibility. If funds need to be deobligated at project closeout, This form can supplement that budget amendment form that we've gone over a couple of times. Yep. So to go back to our previous example of the City of Anywhere, with their 18 DPMF 99 project, they're closing out now. As you can see, if your project does have administration, we do provide already provide the administration line item. If not, just go ahead and leave that whole row blank and just continue on with the rest of the form. This one did have administration, so it was allocated $37,000. It had acquisition, affordable rental housing, and then all the other line items that we saw in that RFF earlier today. Then you got the column C, which is in the middle there. That's what funds will be canceling out or deobligating back to the state. These are usually just unused funds. If you reach the end of the project and you finish and there's funds left over that you don't intend to use. So we'll just go ahead and put that up there. Deobligating $5,000 admin, $10,500 in acquisition, $2,000 in engineering design, see that right? And $750 in construction and inspection. Add all those up and put them on that C11 line right down there. Unfortunately, with this worksheet, it doesn't add up for you. You do have to do a little math. So break out those calculators. Then we go to the final column, total cost paid. These are just the actual costs that we did distribute out to the subrecipients. You just subtract column C from B to get column D. And that should all add up there at the bottom of actual costs paid. If there was any program income, make sure that that is also indicated in that next row there. We did not have, that's a disaster project, we did not have program income. Whoops. Go back. And then, disaster project, we didn't have program income. And then I come along with my pen and I make sure that all the numbers add up on our side and our systems that we utilize. Then the highest ranking official will go ahead and put their name, sign, and date to just certify that all the information is correct to the best of their knowledge. They will also indicate any local contribution, actual total match. Let's see. Person who is putting this form together, you will they'll just put their name, grant administrator there. No need to sign here, just so that if we have any questions regarding the form, we reach back out to you guys and just say what needs to be fixed. Then, once I confirm with everybody that all the information is correct, I confirm with Haley that any road visits are needed. She'll let me know, and then I can indicate whether the project is regular closed or admin closed. Most of the time, the project will be admin closed due to the fact that you might have had a payment during the fiscal year, and we are waiting to see if you need a single audit. And then we forward that on to our program manager, who will sign dates and approve of the certificate of completion. So then we got the closeout report form 2. This captures data such as the income data for program beneficiaries. You have your direct benefit, it has 3 tables within it. Direct beneficiary applicants, and indirect beneficiaries. The direct beneficiaries are defined as those benefiting from the activity where an application or income verification is needed. The direct beneficiary applicants are those who apply to benefit from the activity. It gets a little confusing, so let's say you have this multifamily project that we have going on, and you have, let's say, 100 people who have applied to be part of that multifamily, but only 50 were approved. You would put 100 direct beneficiary applicants but 50 direct beneficiaries. The indirect beneficiaries are those who are served from the activity through an application, though an application was not required. This is those streets and roads, pretty much all your infrastructure projects. Administration and legal activities do not report beneficiaries. Engineering, design, inspection, architectural fees have the same beneficiaries as the construction activity and need not be reported. The form includes space for reporting LMI beneficiaries. This is low mod below 80%, includes all beneficiaries at or below 80%. Low includes all beneficiaries at or below 50% of the county median, and very low includes all below 30% county median. So to go through our example that we have Save Anywhere, project number. Our direct beneficiaries is our first one that we go through. We'll put our activity name there, and then for this example, we had 40 direct beneficiaries. Of the 40, 21 were of LMI, which gives us 53% LMI, so we made that 51% LMI requirement for a national objective. And then of the 21, we break it down of our low mod, low, and very low. That is 5 low mod, 6 low income, and 10 very low income. And since we had people who had to apply to be part of the multifamily project, we put that activity there. But 40 people applied, 40 people got in, and so we just repeat that information here. Part of that project is those streets and roads. We also have storm sewers. Obviously, there's 40 people who will be using those streets and roads as it's the roads that go through the apartment complex, such things like that, as well as storm sewers. They're the ones who will be utilizing that, so it's okay to just repeat that information as before. So then we go to the closeout report, forms 3, 4, and 5. I'm only really going to go out cover one of them because these forms are all the same. They just go over the direct beneficiary applicants, and indirect beneficiaries. Subrecipient will provide a racial breakdown by ethnic designation for each of the activities listed on the previous form. Provide as many copies as necessary to cover each activity being reported. So the form only has 2 areas to report on activities. If you need more, feel free to add more to it. So we got the City of Anywhere with their multifamily activity. This is just for this one activity. We had mentioned that there was 40 direct beneficiaries, so you can see here. And of that, we have our white, black, African American, Asian, et cetera, This all adds up to 40. So now, of the total direct beneficiaries, we just need to indicate which ones are also identified as Hispanic, and we just put that in the next column. So of the 40, there are 8 who also identify as Hispanic. The Form ED1, I won't go over too much. It's the economic development form. It's very similar to the forms we just went over, just more in a condensed format. This is for ED projects. This form requires information like how many jobs were created or retained, any cash in-kind match, direct beneficiaries and racial background, and program income. Form 6 is the project accomplishments. For each construction activity under the project, enter in short but detailed quantitative terms what the activity was able to accomplish. If the project was unable to meet its initially proposed numbers, explain the reason why. At the bottom of the form, under changes in original project scope and reasons. This is what the form looks like. We got Save Anywhere with the project number there. Our construction activity was obviously our multifamily housing, our storm sewers, and our streets and roads. Don't include administration or engineering design, anything like that, other professional services. And as you can see, just like those narratives that we've been talking about all week, constructed one property of 40 multifamily units to serve 21 LMI families. Replaced 400 linear feet of storm sewers damaged by water runoff in the storm. Gives a little story, but also gives actual numbers. And then constructed 300 linear feet of roadways to be used by multifamily residents. Form U is the outcomes of the project. It was a pretty long form. I don't really have much of an example of that one, so we'll just go over the Form U's recording outcome indicators of the project. It covers things like public facility or infrastructure activities. We're going to put in the number of new access to the benefit, number of improved access to the benefit for demolition activities, number of demolitions that you did. It will have like a proposed and an actual, so what the proposed was at the beginning of the project, what you actually did. Downtown revitalization, jobs created and jobs retained. The Section 3 summary report. The Section 3 summary report is used to track the efforts of the subrecipient to provide job training, employment, and contract opportunities for low or very low income residents in their neighborhoods. Confirm with your planning specialist if your project falls under the old or new rule, as there are different forms for each one. So the single audit, by accepting CDBG funds, the subrecipient agrees to the responsibility of carrying out the requirement that the CDBG program funds may be audited. If the subrecipient expends $1 million or more in federal financial assistance during the fiscal year, they must have a single audit conducted. Joe already went over a lot of these details. So, an auditor must be procured utilizing the instituted procurement policy. CDBG funds can be used to pay for audits of CDBG funds only, since it's impossible to determine audit costs at the time of award. A grant amendment can later be requested for an increase in funds. The necessity for an audit determines whether a project is closed or at a close, as we discussed. And further details regarding the single audit can be found in the financial management chapter of the admin manual. The change of use of real property. This was newly added to the closeout chapter of the admin manual. Local governments may not change the use or planned use of real property unless affected citizens are provided with reasonable notice and opportunity to comment on changes, and either one of the following applies. The new use qualifies in meeting a national objective and is not used for the conduct of government, or may retain or dispose of the property if the CDBG program is fully reimbursed the expended grant amount. Funds spent to acquire or improve real property in excess of the threshold for small purchase procurements and standards applies from the times this standard applies from the times funds are first spent until 5 years after grant closeouts.